The January the 6th riots in the US will lead to the Second American Civil War, followed by the Eugenics War. Alrighty then. And then followed by the Third World War, according to Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And see, I can kind of buy the Third World War part, because if America's busy tearing itself apart, I can absolutely see the various other nations of Earth going, maybe I am the superpower now. And, you know, getting frisky with their militaries. I can see that one, but the Eugenics War? What? Did the Democrats in the middle of the Second American Civil War suddenly go, yes, we have been thinking along racial political lines for quite some time now. Best go whole hog. Make this an inclusive war. I could see it. Maybe Strange New Worlds is actually quite secretly based. Somehow I doubt it. Yet, nevertheless, the plot, or that January the 6th would cause all ills and eventually destroy 30% of mankind, a bit of a stretch, but oh well, details, certainly served its primary purpose. Clickbait. And to get everybody to talk about Star Trek again. Because, well, STD, bit of a mixed reception there, shall we say. Now, I, who frankly don't know a damn thing about Star Trek, honestly, I never really got into it. I looked at STD and went, ooh, stupid pew-pew shooty show, yay! Which I recognize is not really the point of Star Trek, but hey, for once, I get to be the person who watches a franchise and goes, yeah, I don't even know what this is, I'm just here for the blinking lights. For once, I get to be the one enjoying somebody else's universe getting destroyed, okay? Considering how mine are getting trampled all the time, I feel like I almost deserve it in a twisted, perverse way. And honestly, again, I don't know enough about Star Trek to tell you whether or not Strange New Worlds is good Trek or not, but it certainly didn't seem like good television, as the entire episode serves as little more than a delivery vehicle for this one political comment on the January the 6th riots. Everything else feels like contrived nonsense to me. So, what happens is, the Federation goes to a new world that has apparently developed warp drive, except it hasn't. It has somehow weaponized the warp drive by observing a space phenomenon caused by Captain Person in a previous season of Star Trek stuff and things and things. Again, I'd mention I'm not no expert on this nonsense. So, they turn out to be extraordinarily hostile. They immediately capture the aliens because, you know, that's the first thing you do, like, wow, first contact! Ka-check. Especially when there's like 3 aliens. A bit extreme, but fair enough, they are a hostile civilization after all. Then the Enterprise goes after them and realizes, oh my god, it's a bomb. And then they contrive a very, very stupid plan to rescue the previous members of the other spaceship. And here's where the complete contrivance comes in, because up until this point you can think like, okay, this sounds kind of interesting, this is semi-organic. Like, what if a civilization discovered the warp technology, but they discovered it as a weapon rather than as a warp drive? Alright, but then, well, they decided to disguise themselves as the species in question, using some kind of biological mumbo-jumbo-jimbo to change their faces, you know, the usual Star Trek, everyone's a humanoid, but they've got bony growths on their face, basic stuff. And they say specifically, Spock, your unique bullshit biology means that this shit won't work on you for very long, but we're sending you down anyways because, well, this is where the plot contrivance comes in, as, surprise, surprise, Spock's disguise begins to fail. And instead of going, well, Spock, I'm sorry, but you're obviously a danger to the mission, so we're gonna beam you back up again, they simply go on ahead. And Spock then reveals the entire mission, as whilst in front of 2 scientists and 2 guards, he bends over, clutches his ears, and goes, "Ah!" which was not particularly suspicious or anything, and then fully transforms back into his Spock self again, right in front of the guards. The only reason Spock was brought on this mission was for this plot contrivance to occur, so that the captain can, in the elevator on the way up, go, I see, this is why they did the doodly-deedly-da, and now I know, so now I'm going to talk them into not blowing each other up. And then he, well, violates the Prime Directive, the Clause 1, Order 1, or whatever they were calling it at the time, like 3 separate times in this episode, I think, and tells them that, oh yes, no, your world is exactly the same as our worlds, like you look like humans with makeup on, your planet looks like our planet, etc. Very convenient actually, if you ask me. And here, watch this, this was the flashpoint, this was when everything went wrong, and then the footage starts rolling of the January the 6th riots, which, if nothing else, we now know who won the culture wars in the Star Trek universe, as, you know, the violent burnings and lootings of entire cities preceding this event is forgotten. The assassination of police officers back in 2016, the siege of the federal courthouse in like 2020, the murder of Trump supporters by BLM activists, the fact that BLM turned out to be a grifter organization where the founder walked away with several houses and millions of dollars in their pockets. All of this non-important. This was not a problem. This did not cause any sort of societal polarization whatsoever, you see. Instead, it was this weird group of people in red hats that suddenly decided to attack the Capitol building for no particular reason. In fact, I couldn't tell you why they did it. Not because I don't know, but because, well, if I put 2 words together on YouTube, my video will be taken down. Which... that is still, to date, the best example of active censorship and active, like, political suppression we have, because you can see it anywhere. I can tell you straight up, if I make a pair of certain sounds on YouTube, that video will disappear. Just like when we were originally talking about this on my original channel back in the day. Well, the current media narrative then was that Donald Trump, the then president, or fascist-in-chief, as I'm sure he will be remembered, was speaking to his supporters. And, you know, it was the Ein Reich, Ein Führer speech. At least it will say that in the history books, where he argued that his people should take to the streets in violent overthrow of the government. Because that was the narrative at the time. Now, I played a video clip of the president's speech, which seemed to contradict that narrative, and well, that was removed because you literally weren't allowed to post video clips of the speech. Oh well, minor insignificant details. I'm sure it was the January the 6th riots that caused the Second American Civil War. Good God. Again, at least we knew who won the culture war. That's beneficial if nothing else, but this entire thing, the cast was commentating on this on the day of release, because again, the whole of this was nothing more than a PR move. This was a way for them to go, hey, Star Trek, this is the new show. We have this really ridiculous and hopefully rather controversial take that's gonna make you watch. And then the show will probably back off from the contemporary politics and do some stupid pew-pew actiony nonsense. In fact, interestingly enough, the latter part of the episode, a fairly large segment of it as well, is basically a long commercial for the rest of the series, as if to go, right, we've hooked you in, now, please look at this sales pitch. Look, there's gunfire, there's ships shooting each other, there's all kinds of nonsense. Spock will be a beta cuck for the entirety of the series. That's the thing too. Spock has apparently not quite discovered his self-confidence just yet, but again, minor insignificant details right there. Ugh. And they defended this by saying that Star Trek has always been commenting on social issues without being preachy. See, I think that's the problem right there. If you show one side of the conversation, one side only, that's you being preachy. Now, you could have made this argument because, well, there was a lot of talk about civil war around the time. Timothy of the Pool, for example, was on that train rather heavily, that America might be heading in the way of some sort of civil war. And honestly, considering just how volatile shit was at the time, it was hardly a particularly large surprise, and the only reason why we're talking a lot less about it today is because, well, we've had other things to worry about for a while now. Anywho, the political climate is absolutely getting very, 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 very polarized. There's no doubt about it. You can see it everywhere, to the point that a African-American buying Twitter is producing a dozen news articles a day talking about how this is a danger to democracy somehow. Free speech could be the threat to drive to destroy the democracy. But anywho, but again, this isn't a singular event. If you'd actually been like, okay, I'm from this planet, and I'm going to show you some events. So we had racial uprising, basically. We have a racial movement in BLM. We have racially motivated assassinations of police officers. We have racially motivated attacks on politicians. All of these things have happened. We have race grifters walking away with millions of dollars in the bank account. Race is one of the most prevalent political issues of one of the two major parties in the US. On the other hand, we have a constantly escalating and souring political climate with increasing censorship on practically every single level, and this comes after years of effective cancel culture and massive backlash against any opposition to the rising mainstream. You could make a very good point that things were volatile, and if you laid these things out, and you wouldn't even mention the movements, you'd just show brief clips here and there, talk a little bit about it, mention the bad from both sides, because the right has absolutely been radicalizing as well, definitely. The verbal lines have grown stricter and harsher on both sides over the years, there's no doubt about that. Hell, even myself have gotten a bit more strident on certain issues, absolutely. If you did that, most people would look at that episode and go, yeah, none of the sides would agree with it outright, and that's how you know that you'll hit the perfect balance, where all sides will go, I agree with that, kind of disagree with that. If you got both sides, you've made a good, non-preachy moral argument. If you haven't, well, you'll see Star Trek as it is currently, with the usual internet review score of either 1 star or 10 stars. But as a PR move, it has worked out brilliantly, and hey, I've fallen for it too. I'm talking about it right now, after all. At least I did put it off a little bit, didn't I? As for a sign for the rest of the season, honestly, judging by the preview thing, it seems like they would be dropping it fairly completely afterwards. Hey, maybe they will, because I very much so did like the visuals. I didn't mind the casting either. It's the usual diverse crew where you tick every single box, but it's the current goddamn year. What can you do about it? And Spock, too weak and submissive, too often yelled at, in my opinion, but it's supposed to be a younger Spock, so maybe that'll be his formative years or something. And I did really like the overall design and the presentation of it. I also like the fact that when they met the leader of this warlike alien civilization, she made some good points. Like, do you not have enemies? Do you not have powerful enemies that oppose you? And the captain goes, yeah, we do. What do you do about those? Well, we fight them. Okay, well, we're doing the same goddamn thing. Why are you preaching at me about this nonsense? That is far less preachy again. Now, that was all swept under the rug immediately when the captain went like, look, big booms, and they went, maybe we should be friends. We'll have to wait and see. Presuming they make anything more funny to cover, that is. Anywho, it's starting out better than STD, if nothing else, so it might be worth at least a small watch if you're interested into the whole Star Trek-y nonsense. Until next time, I am Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.